What is happening, people, and welcome back to another one of these weekly live shows every Monday, 8 p.m. Today, I'm joined by four fabulous guests, three of them here with me now. Firstly, Theo, thank you very much for coming on. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited.
Really excited. It's really glad to have you on as well. So thank you very much for giving me your time. Justin, welcome back on the channel. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Thank you so much for having us on. It's just a shame it's not in better circumstances.
I know, right? I'm very sorry. Maybe we could blame you as jinxing it, but thank you very much for coming on. Who knows? We can blame a lot of things at the moment. Travis, regular on the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, really well, thank you. Nice to see you back on again, Justin, and glad to meet you, Theo. Always good to see some new faces on the show. Hopefully, have another good show tonight. It's always good every Monday night. So yeah, it's rock and roll.
Absolutely, rock and roll. That's one way of describing it. Roller coaster ride. My fourth guest this evening, Wynnie from Part Lane Podcast. Wynnie, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thanks for having me back on. It's obviously good to meet some new faces on here as well. Obviously, Travis, I've met you previously on here before, but it's good to see some other people as well. But yeah, looking forward to talking Tottenham.
Absolutely. Not a good circumstances, Wynnie, but still, talking Tottenham, we try to be as positive as we can for you while covering also the negative points. But before we do crack into it, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Getting to 2K by the end of the season would be amazing. If you like what you see, smash the like button. It's free to do so and it helps other people see it. Get involved in the comments and put your questions in the comments below. We'll get to them towards the end of the show as well regarding the questions. The comments will go throughout today's show. If you are listening on any other podcast platform, don't forget to give us a follow and a 5-star review. That will be appreciated. Again, free to do so. Big up everyone in the chat. People in there nice and early, an hour or so before. So that's what I call commitment. So big up Barney, big up Jay, and big up to everyone in the comments. Big up George. There's a lot of people in the chat. So yeah, big up to all of you. But let's crack straight into it. And Theo, I will come to you first. Thinking back before that Wolves game, what were your thoughts on the lineup? Because obviously 4 changes, wasn't there? You know, we saw Emerson, Davis, Basuma, and Son come in. Were they the right changes for you at the time? What were your thoughts?
They all made sense. I mean, the fullbacks had to be replaced because they were injured, so that was straightforward enough. You wouldn't have played anyone else in their stead. Basuma coming in for Bentancur, I thought made sense because Bentancur has not played well the last couple of games, and I think the thing is he's still getting himself back up to speed. He's finding it hard to be consistently good. We all love him. We all know he's top class, but Basuma's a very, very class act as well, so it made sense. And up front you wanted Son to start. I mean, Son's the main man. This is the captain. You're going to start him. So yeah, it made total sense to me. But obviously, having said that, we were really up. You know, it was a massive disadvantage to lose the fullbacks.
Yeah, absolutely is, especially in Angie's type of system. But Justin, I'll come to you next. Thinking back pre-match is obviously really hard now, but at the time, do you think those changes were right? And was there any surprises in there for you?
Yeah, I think in a sense we have to look at the fact that to try and, because I heard a lot of people say playing 3 at the back, and as you say, we've not done that throughout. He's kind of stuck with it, which you see a lot of these managers do. They kind of have a set way of doing things, and they kind of don't really deviate from that. So I wasn't surprised he went with Davies and Royal, but I do think from that we saw why we need better quality in terms of that. I can understand why Sonny started, but I think what we've seen is the fact that Sonny and Richarlison just can't play in the same team. If I'm being brutally honest, I don't think Sonny, for some reason he could do it when Kane was there, but he just can't. The connection between him and Richarlison just isn't there. So they seem to struggle. I think it's now just going to have to be a case of it's one or the other. Until we get a big replacement in the summer. But beyond that, that was a team that I sort of expected him to put out. And I think it, in a way, what it allowed us to do was highlight the big areas that we seem to know. I think a lot of us know here that need addressing in the summer. There's no excuses now. They need addressing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Justin. Wynnie, I'll come to you next. Again, same question. Your thoughts on the lineup at the time? Sort of 4 changes in there. Any surprises in there for you?
No, to be perfectly honest, I was quite excited at the prospect of seeing a Sarr, Basuma, and Maddison midfield, because it's something that we've all been kind of longing for it Since we had all these players at our disposal. Unfortunately, we've lost them to injuries, other competitions, etc. But no, it was kind of what I expected. I maybe didn't expect that midfield three. I maybe thought he'd chuck a Bentancur in there, even though obviously Bentancur has been poor as of late. I still thought he might stick him in there just for that star kind of aspect. That's what he brings to the side. But yeah, unfortunately, we were stuck with no other choice but to have the fullbacks in there. And unfortunately, that was our downfall across the game, which I'm sure we'll get into.
We absolutely will get into. Travis, what were your thoughts on the lineup? Were you disappointed, obviously, that Doggy and Poro as well were injured?
Yeah, you can kind of see how much we rely on them two players when they're out, and this is when it comes down to our depth within the squad. The depth is just non-existent, and that goes from the defence and the midfield to near enough the up front now. I've never rated Emerson Royale. I think we should have sold him at least 3 seasons ago. The guy's unreliable. Ben Davies, he did start playing really well and then kind of went off the ball a little bit. But Emerson Royale is always one that I panic about. I've always said he's a defending version of Musa Sissoko. He's so twinkle toes on the ball. But yeah, I think what Justin said when he was talking earlier, I think he's hit the nail on the head perfectly with what he said. Bentancur hasn't been up to scratch, but obviously he's just come back from injuries, probably roughly about 75% at the moment, I'd say. So a little way to go yet. But yeah, obviously good to see Sonny back as captain. Obviously when they got knocked out at the Asian Cups. But yeah, I think the next summer transfer window, we really need to start thinking about. We really need to start thinking about who we need in regards to our quality of defenders. I mean, Mickey van der Ven, what a player! What a player! I rate him so highly. But yeah, I've said in every podcast we've had that our defence is a massive concern.
Yeah, we'll definitely get onto it, along with individuals who stand out and who aren't performing later on in the show. But Theo, I will come back to you. Someone's dropped something. Theo, I will come back to you because in the 42nd minute, Wolves took the lead through Yao Gomez. Was the goal coming for you, and what do you make of it in Spurs' point of view defensively?
Well, I mean, you've got to say that Wolves played very, very well. I mean, they did a fantastic job of putting on a textbook away performance. They strung 5 across the back when they didn't have the ball. They sat pretty deep, but not too deep. They were incredibly organised and incredibly committed. And they had the weapons to hurt us on the break, even though their centre forward was out. The top scoring centre forward was out. But Neto is like one of the best players in the whole Premier League when it comes to playing on the break. And I think that I just think they're a good side. They've beaten other good teams this season, and we've been playing in a way that is high risk because that's the Ange way. And if you look at a lot of games we've had at home this season, we've lost games where we felt that we were hard done by. If you look at the Villa game and the West Ham game, and we've won games where we thought, if we were honest, we've been a little bit lucky. So you look at the Brentford game, the Brighton game, the Everton game. And so, in other words, a lot of our home games have been sort of 50-50-ish. And when you're playing a good team like Wolves, you're going to get caught out. So I don't know if I saw it coming, but I certainly wasn't absolutely shocked when Wolves took the lead, especially as we often concede first. And very often we go on and win anyway, but not on Saturday.
No, not on Saturday, sadly not. But yeah, Wynnie, I'll come to you next. What were your thoughts on that goal? Was it poor defending for you, or was it just a good goal by Wolves from a corner?
Mate, he stood on his own, like completely unmarked. There's no way that should be deemed as a good goal. I just don't get why we are so frail from set pieces all of a sudden, because we've got Van der Ven, who's probably one of the tallest people I've ever seen. With his legs as long as his whole body, pretty much, and we've got Romero, who's so dominant in the air, and there's other people on the pitch as well. Like I remember, we don't like to talk about him too much, but Harry Kane, obviously, he would be the man on the front post, and you'd always see him winning the headers away. And I don't see why we don't utilise Richarlison like that, because Richarlison is also good in the air. His aerial ability isn't crap. So I don't know why we don't utilise that more. But look, there's no way it should have been deemed as a good goal. Obviously, he still had to put it away. It was a good header, to his credit. But I mean, he stood there on his own. He didn't really have to do much with it. So yeah, it's a poor goal to concede from me.
Yeah, it certainly was. And Travis, I don't know if you saw the first goal, but if you did, what were your thoughts on it? Was it good from Wolves, or was it, like Willie says, poor defending from a set piece from Spurs?
I didn't actually see much of the game. I was watching it on
Do you know-
the illegal streaming that kept going off. My wife.
We won't talk about that, though. We won't talk about that. Oh dear.
Yeah, I mean, Wolves have done a double over us now. You know, Wolves are a good team. They are. They're a hard team to play against. You know, they play really good football. But yeah, I think it ultimately comes down to who we had in defence. You know, Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie out injured. We don't. I mean, we struggle. We don't struggle as much as what we do when we've got Davis and Royale. So I think Royale's just too much of a lightweight, personally.
Fair enough. And Justin, I will ask you a different question, because obviously Wolves 1-0 up at half time. Were they worthy of their lead at half time, would you say, or were we a bit hard done by?
No, they were they were the better team. Although we had the possession, I think it wasn't a surprise at all. I think once they knew that the fullbacks weren't going to be there, and you could see what Ange was trying to do in the the open training session that you were at, you could see that he was doing drills on trying to get them better at it. But that's like me trying to do gymnastics in the Olympics. You can give me all that, you can give me that 5-minute training where you're like, ain't gonna make a difference. And I think that was clear. You know, when you got somebody who, we're looking at all day long in Pedro Neto, and he's having to come up against Emerson Royale, I mean, he just chewed him up and spat him out. And that was, that's the one thing I will say that was clever in terms of Wolves' play. They looked at it and they thought the biggest weakness for Spurs and the way that they play is going to be the fullbacks. So we're not going to go down the middle. We're not going to try and attack them there. What we're going to do is go for their wingers or wing backs, and we're just going to literally tear them to bits. And I think I felt a little bit sorry, because I do agree with what I think it was Wynnie or Travis said about the fact that Emerson isn't good enough. I think he's got good defensive qualities generally, but I just don't think he fits this system in any shape or form, really. And with the players that we've got now, I think him and Davies need to seek pastures new. But I thought Wolves were credit for it. And even when we got 1-1, I thought, unless we absolutely go and now dominate this game, I could only see Wolves winning it, which they did.
Yeah, well said. I couldn't agree more. I thought Wolves were really good on the day. Credit to Gary O'Neill. Theo, I'll move to you next. Bit of positivity, because in the 46th minute, great start to the half. Kulusevski, nice little move actually, where he slots it through Jose Sar's leg. Was that the perfect start to the half for you, Theo? And did you think, like me at that moment in time, that we weren't great, but we could go on and win the game?
Yeah, because as I said before, we've gone 1-0 down in home games. Or an away game, we regularly go 1-0 down, and quite often we come back. And also quite often we have not great first halves, and he seems to galvanise them at half time and get them going, and then they respond well. So once we scored that early goal, which came as a bit of a surprise, not just because it was so early, but because, as everyone has said, we were probably second best throughout the first half, really. But once we got it, it's a strange goal, really, because he sort of waltzed through and then just slotted it in from an extraordinary angle. But once it was in, you thought, I mean, I bet you, all the odds on all the betting exchanges would have gone very seriously. We would have been, odds on to win the game at that point. Everything pointed to us. But slowly, of course, it ebbed away the advantage. So, yeah, it was the perfect start. Yes, it was a pretty good goal. Funny thing was, Cooley hasn't been playing particularly well. He didn't have a particularly good day on Saturday, but he did do that. But then, we didn't capitalise on it. Didn't build on it, which was disappointing.
Yeah, it certainly was disappointed. And Travis, was that the perfect start to the half for you? And did you think we really push on at that point and go and win the game? Despite, as I said, we weren't great in that first 45. What were your thoughts when the ball hit the back of the net? It was so quick, by the way, I didn't even get to my seat.
I think that'll do Kulu's confidence well good. Obviously, as Theo said, he has been playing great as of late. So I think it's to take a positive out of that, do his confidence well good, because obviously he scored a goal. And I did think to myself, here we go, second half team again, we're back, and then we just fell apart. So yeah, just I don't know.
Yeah, no, exactly. And Wynnie, I will ask you the same question as well, because it was the perfect start to the half. What are you like? Okay, we're going to do it again, almost like a Brentford. Do you think we're going to turn it around?
No, the way that I'm going to be honest, mate. Look, the way the game had been up until that point, it was all Wolves. I mean, I don't really remember us doing too much. It just seemed to be, Wolves keeping possession of the ball. The best way to describe it was I would have thought that Wolves were the home side because they were very dominant. I know the possession stats say otherwise, but I mean, possession stats mean nothing really when it's meaningful possession. I would say Wolves had more meaningful possession in good areas. But yeah, look, what seems to happen, and it's really, really starting to grate on me now, is we have such a crap first half. Second half, we come back into it. We come out. Sometimes we come out of out from half time like a completely rejuvenized side. And then we end up getting back into the game, using Brentford as an example, where we scored some quick fire goals and got ourselves back into the game and ended up obviously going on to win it. But what I don't know why at the minute we seem to get back into games, draw level, even go one ahead and then just drop off. And we go back, we like kind of revert back to how we was under like Conte and Mourinho and just sit back and try and catch people. And I don't know why we do it, because at the minute, even though we have such great defenders, our biggest strength is going forward, with the players that we've got going forward. And even, I would probably argue that two of our defenders in fullbacks are actually attackers more than they are defenders. So, we've got such great strength going forward, but we just seem to sit back and just relax and invite more pressure on. And, that doesn't end good.
Absolutely. Talking Beer makes a good point here in the comments below on YouTube. Hit the like button on your way in. Only got 7 likes so far, and there's more of you in here, so do smash that like button because it is free to do so if you are listening live on YouTube. Go on.
Sorry, can I just... Winnie's just made an absolute superb point there about our defenders going forward. The reason is because you've got Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie. That's the difference between them and Emerson Royale and Ben Davies. They never want to get forward. No. Ever. That's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, I'll come to you because in the 63rd minute, Wolves got their second goal from a quick counter-attack, I believe, from our own corner. So from you, Justin, was it a well-taken goal again from Wolves' quick counter-attack, poor from Spurs like Emerson, Basuma, or was it a bit of both?
I think it was a bit of both. I mean, I think we could all see that to continue playing that way with players like that who, as we said, in that sort of format, when you're playing that way, you need to have fast, people who are able to sprint back and get back into position and not being funny. The moment they broke, I think we could all see there was going to be trouble. And when Neto was, I think, being squared up against Royal, there was no chance. It was never going. It was only going to ever end one way there, and all he had to do was put a decent ball in. And then Vicario was left stranded in terms of it. So from that from that side of things, I just wasn't surprised really, because we seem to, over the last sort of few games, we seem to have gotten very lucky. I don't think we've played particularly well against Brentford or Brighton. So I think it was a case of that we needed to see. Once we scored once we scored our goal, we needed to get that. We just needed to kill the game there and then, because we knew full well that we weren't going to be able to sustain it. Wolves just had to stay in the game, which they did. They picked their moment. And once again, we couldn't come back. So, in terms of a 45 minutes, because that's, if you look at it through the games, we sort of gone behind, got to half time, then come back. Whereas Wolves actually this time went ahead in the second half. And of course, we didn't have the time to regroup, which is a bit of a worrying trait at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely is. Theo, I'll come to you next as well, because I want to know your thoughts on Wolves' second goal. Because for me, it is poor defending. Is it poor defending for you? If so, who do you pinpoint that on?
I don't think it's so much individual mistakes. I think it's that Spurs play in that way where they're very high up the pitch, and it's very difficult when you're playing a team who is adept at breaking as Wolves. It's a really high risk thing to do. You're always going to risk conceding. So I would hesitate to. I mean, a lot of people said Emerson Royale was at fault, but I mean, there's only so much he could do. We got Neto bombing on like that, and it was a good fit. I mean, these are good players. Neto would get into most top 6 teams, or certainly be in the in the match day squad. And it's the same with what's his name? João Gomez, was it, who scored the goals?
Yeah, Gomez. Yeah.
I mean, he's a top player, and so if you could blame the defenders if they were set up in such a way that you should prevent that kind of a goal, but they're not set up in that sort of way. They're set up in such a way where they're vulnerable to that kind of goal. So if you're playing against really good players who are able to execute that kind of breakaway, and the whole team executed, as I said at the start, they executed an excellent away performance in that they were able to cope comprehensively with our attacking threat, but they were also able to, in a breaking way, pose a real threat themselves. So no, I'm not really. I mean, Emerson Royale is a limited footballer, relatively speaking. He's a lot better than any of us, I think I would say. But in the context of the Premier League, yeah, he doesn't get into other top 6 teams. But then he's our reserve. I mean, these things happen. I mean, you can really underestimate what injuries do. Porro and Destiny Udogie are top players. But Davis and Emerson Royale aren't. And if you're playing a team that is capable of breaking like that, Neto and Gomez are very, very good players. They've got other good players as well. Altnor is a good player. Huang is an excellent player. You might concede goals. And as I said earlier, we could have lost other games this season if those other opponents had been as ruthless. Wolves just did it to perfection, but they had to be pretty much perfect, and they only won by 1 goal. So I'm not too depressed about it, But I think that goal was just a very, very good goal.
It certainly was. Thank you, Theo. I personally question why we continue with the inverted fullback for me without Udogie and Porro. I don't see the benefit when you play a low block team. It just compacts that midfield and ultimately led to the second goal. So I don't personally get why we've done that. Wynnie, do you get why we played inverted fullbacks? And what do you make of Wolves' second goal, which was the winner in the end?
So the goal I'll touch on. I don't think really that there's any individual errors in there whatsoever. I would probably say that I feel that Gomez probably should have been picked up better. In terms of Neto breaking at speed, I mean, there's nobody on that pitch other than maybe Van der Ven that could have possibly kept up with him. He could have possibly kept up with him, but he didn't because, we unfortunately, Neto is just ridiculously quick. He done well to cut back and then, chop back and then cut the ball back for Gomez, who still had a lot to do. Let's not beat around the bush. It was still a very, very good finish. First touch as well, as we know, striking the ball first time isn't easy. It can balloon anywhere. So it was a good finish. And look, this is the inverted fullbacks thing. The problem I have is, okay, so if we can address our backup fullbacks in the summer, yes, we continue. Let's play the way we play every week. Because if someone drops out, we've got like for like to come in. We were just unfortunate that we had Ben Davis and Emerson Royale to come in who can't play that way. But the problem with that is, the cynic in me says, look, no, do you know what? Let's just play the way we play. Let's play Ange ball, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And unfortunately for us, it didn't work. But look, as Theo said, look, I'm not beating myself up over it. I'm sure we're going to get a lot worse defeats, in the future, playing the way we play. But look, full credit to Wolves; they deserve to win.
Yeah, they absolutely did, in my opinion, as well. But Travis, I will move on to you, because Ange's been recently questioned over his changes in in-game management. Well, on Saturday, he brought on Werner, Bentancur and Johnson in the 71st minute for Richarlison, Sarr and Bentancur. Then in the 85th minute, he brought on Højbjerg for Maddison and Lo Celso for Emerson. Did he get it wrong on Saturday, Travis, for you, with the substitutions?
Yes. I personally would have started Højbjerg. I would have started, Højbjerg, sorry, Bentancur, Sarr, and Maddison in the midfield. The thing is, and the reality of it is, Ange has not got a lot to choose from, and that's the problem with the club. The team is a mess at the moment. Yes, we've got better players. Yes, we've got the players that we needed, but the team is still a mess, in my opinion. You know, how can we be competing for Champions League and top four when we're losing against teams like Wolves, scraping 3 points against Brighton? I mean, I know Brighton are an informed side at the moment, but we're struggling against them sort of teams, and it's, you know, it's still not right. It's really not right. And I'll probably get my head bitten for that, and I'll probably get a lot of people disagreeing with me, but the team is nowhere near right at the moment. Nowhere near it. If we compete for Champions League and top four, nowhere near it.
Okay, no, fair enough. You're more entitled to your opinion. Justin, where do you kind of stand with Ange's in-game management and subs in terms of this season, but also on Saturday? Has he been getting it right? And most importantly, Saturday, right or wrong for you, his changes?
I think we've got to remember that a lot of the managers, you know, when they go to a club, they're trying to stamp their philosophy on it. And what you tend to find is that it's not all their players. You know, if you look at the team that, you know, even then that he put out, Royal wasn't his, Davies wasn't his. Okay, he's made Romero his, but you know, Richarlison wasn't his, Kulusevski wasn't his. You know, just to name a few, they're not his players. And I think one of the things that we have to really sort of establish here is I don't have a problem with the way that Ange is trying to play. And I don't have a problem because a lot of people turn around and say, well, there's got to be a plan B, there's got to be a plan C, and this, that, and the other. And you tend to look at the bigger clubs and they don't really have, you know, you look at, you know, they'll just have different personnel that can fit that sort of system and work within it. So to me, I don't really sort of see how that is such an issue. To me, I think the biggest problem now is the fact that we've reached a level where I look at a lot of those players and I think, this is it. This is their peak. It is a top six bunch of players, some of them, you know, and as we've all sort of said, some of these players wouldn't get into Manchester City, wouldn't get into Liverpool's team, wouldn't get into Arsenal's team, you know. So we got to be looking at, well, what do we need to change to do that? Well, having a plan B and a plan C and whatever doesn't change that. You've still got to have that personnel to be able to execute plan A, because 9 times out of 10, if you have the players who can execute plan A, you don't need plan B, C, or D. You know, ultimately, it's the fact that plan A will work because the quality you have there fits within it and ultimately should then bring you success. So to me, I almost looked at it and I thought it was almost a case of, and what I'm hoping for is that he's trying to stick with his same philosophy, but being almost able to say to the club, as you can see, these players are not good enough. And I'm not talking about all of them. I think that I think we're kind of in a small group of players that I don't think are good enough in terms of.
Feel free to name them, Justin. If you can name any in particular.
Yep. So again, I would say, this part I'm now talking about as in starting 11. So there's two parts here, because I think you've got the starting 11. So the players that you would say week in, week out, that if you were to sit here and name your first 11, these ones wouldn't be in it. And to me, I think if you're looking at competing with the top 3 at the moment, you've got to be talking about Royal, you've got to be talking about Davies, you've got to be talking about Richarlison, you've got to be talking about Kulusevski, because to me, I think they're good players, as in, and I will exclude, Royal and Davies from that. I think Richarlison and Kulusevski are good players. They're good backup players. They can come off the bench and they can make a difference. But that is where we've got to be at. We've got to be at a position where we can look at those type of players and say, right, you're good for Tottenham, but you are as good as an impact. You need, unless you can step up to the next level, because I think everyone would agree here, who would we rather have, in that starting 11, Pedro Neto or Kulusevski? I think it was clear as day we'd rather have Kulusevski, because to me, or not Kulusevski, sorry, Pedro Neto, because I think
I was going to say,
yeah. Sorry, I realised as soon as I said that.
Right.
But but I think you would rather have Pedro Neto because I think he would suit that system. The one thing when you have a plan A like this is that everybody's got to know their job and stick to their job to the letter. Well, everybody here knows what Kulusevski does. He'll run down the ring, he'll cut inwards, and then he'll try a shot, or he may try and do a cross. But 9 times out of 10, he'll run down and he'll cut inside. So you can kind of you don't have to worry about feeding him down the wing because he's going to cut inwards to try and do something. But then you look at the bench and you then look at, well, okay, what about Lo Celso? What about Højbjerg? What about Brian Hill? Oliver Skipp, players like that, do we start to look at them and think, well, are they good enough options off the bench? Because that's where they are now. And to me, if this club is serious now, if it's got everything in line as it needs to, then the answer, as Travis is sort of nodding to, is 1,000% no. They're not. Because again, when you change the narrative of the question and you change it to how many of those players will get onto the City bench, how many will get onto the Liverpool bench, how many will get onto the Arsenal bench, I don't think many of them. I really don't. And this is where I think the club now, and one thing I would say about that is that when Poch was in charge, it took us a few years to get to this point, but I think we've kind of accelerated it with Ange in the fact that this summer needs to be key now. We've got FFP working for us. We've got other clubs struggling with it, right? We seem to be thriving. We're seeing about all the other bits coming into it. This summer now, we can't be looking at players of, oh, he's similar to Kulusevski. Oh, he's similar to Richarlison. No, he's better than Kulusevski. He's better than Richarlison. He's better than Emerson. He's better than Davies. We need to be going into that market now and, forget about potential. It's ready-made. It is very much, you take it out of the packet, you put it onto the pitch, it delivers. That is what the big clubs do. If we want to be a big club, we need to do that.
Okay,
absolutely spot on, Justin. That is, do you know what? I could not have said that better myself.
I don't get this. We've been doing this dance for God knows how long. As I say, from Pochettino to Mourinho to Conte to now Ange. It's a case of we're still trying to put square pegs into round holes, and it's got to come to a point of no. And from what I've seen of the business that's been done so far, and I saw a lot of people talk about Dragusin, potentially playing in it, but it's like, no, but he's a centre back. That is why are we trying to fit him somewhere else? We need him to be in a position where he can play as a centre back. And ultimately, and you can see why the club did bring in Timo Werner, because he ticks that box. But to me now, if they're going to go with Werner, fine. But then that means that there is money available to go big in other areas, not areas, right? Because the time has come now where we cannot accept that, just being a club where we have a bit of fun and we sort of flirt with the idea of top 4. No, everybody here can agree. The most important thing for this club right now is to win trophies. It's making money. It's got revenue coming in left, right, and centre. Now's the key to be winning trophies. And to do that, you need star players.
I think you make some good points there. Yes, well said. So Theo, I'll come to you next. Where are you kind of at with Ange Postecoglou and his kind of in-game management for you? And Saturday, did he get it right? Some of the things he'd done, should he have done it earlier?
Possibly earlier. I mean, you're never going to agree 100% with it because it's combinations and the minutes that it's done and everything. I was personally surprised that he took Sarr off. I thought Sarr was the best player, and I think he offers so much in terms of his ability to get around the place. Such a great all-rounder. I was really surprised when he took him off. Apparently, Sarr, I didn't notice from my seat, but I was told that Sarr reacted really badly to it and was really upset about it. And if he was, I don't blame him because I thought he was, as I say, I think him and Bissouma actually had played well. I thought it was the players in front of them that had underperformed, really. I mean, obviously, we've talked about the fullbacks. That was always going to be a big problem because it completely took away a major element in our attacking threat. But if you looked at the players further forward, Maddison's not up to speed. And then we've talked about Kulusevski's been disappointing. Son isn't quite firing. maybe there is an issue with him and Richarlison together. Richarlison is such a strange player because he never looks classy. He never looks classy, but he puts so much into it and he often scores. So you kind of forgive him. But I thought the midfield too, Bissouma, who's only just back, and so I just thought they were really good. So I thought that was a bit strange. But on the other hand, what I do like about Ange is he does want to use the subs. He does want to freshen it up. He wants to put fresh legs on, and he wants to try different things. And one of the things he did do is he took the two, theoretically holding midfielders off, and he only put one on in terms of Bentancur, and he put another attacker on. And he moved Kulusevski inside, almost played with 2 10s, with Kulusevski and Maddison sort of central. So I like that he tries stuff. I like that he's always positive. He's always trying stuff. So in that sense, taking off those two holding midfielders kind of makes sense, because of course Bentancur, when he's at his best, is actually a better passer than, even though I love Bissouma and I love Sarr, and they are excellent passers, but Bentancur at his absolute peak is a real, he's the sort of guy who can put a slide rule pass in and create a chance, from deep. So I got what he was doing. So although I was sorry to see Sarr go off, I thought I don't necessarily criticise his. I mean, Ange. I think one of the things that Ange has worked out. We used to have on the Spurs show. We used to have David Hepworth used to come on, and we'd all be talking about what should happen tactically and what might happen in the game. And then he'd suddenly say, "Wait a minute, everyone. None of us have got a clue what's going to happen in the game, have we?" And we'd say no, but we just. And then he'd say. Then at another point, he'd stop everyone and say, "Wait a minute, everyone. Once the game starts, it's complete chaos. It's total chaos out there. You can't. And in a way, we're all guilty because we love it so much and we're so into it. We keep thinking you can control every different thing by just little tactical things and making the right substitutions, having the right. I think what Ange appreciates is that it is chaos, and there's loads of stuff out there, ricochets and bits of bad luck and refereeing decisions. All sorts of things. So many random things happen in a football match. So what you've got to do is maximise your chances and gamble. So when he makes those substitutions, I think what he's thinking is, what about we try this? We'll try that. We'll try something. Someone might just have a great day. One of these subs might come on and have a brilliant day, or the opposition might find them hard to deal with, or it'll be fresh legs down that side. Or what about if we play with 2 number 10s? That might completely bamboozle their defensive plan. All of those stuff. So I appreciate what he's doing. So I wouldn't have made the same substitutions, but I'm not as good a football manager as him,
No, you make a very good point. I think sometimes people struggle to recognise that. We go, why didn't you do that? But at the end of the day, he's Tottenham Hotspur's manager, and we just don't know what would have happened. On another day, it might have worked. Who knows? But Wynnie, because you haven't spoken in a while, where do you kind of stand with Ange Postecoglou and his engaged manager? Did he get it wrong Saturday?
I've said previously, I've touched upon it before, that the subs thing it is an issue, but it isn't. And the reason why I said it wasn't previously is because kind of the players that he had at his disposal. So let's cast your mind back to, let's say, a month ago. We'd have the likes of Ollie Skip to come on and change a game. We'd have Brian Hill to come on and change a game. Do you know what I mean? Not and no disrespect to people like Højbjerg, people like that. They're not going to come on and ultimately change a game, in your favour, and that's what you need. So this is the first time where I would question the subs in a sense, because I looked at our bench before the game, and we had Lo Celso, we had Bentancur. We had all these players that are returning from injury and other commitments to use at our disposal again. And the first 11 that we had out, for me, bar our fullbacks, was incredible. Like it was almost full strength. So I will question now the sense, like I just mentioned there, that we obviously had the players at our disposal. But like what Theo said, I like the fact that he tries to change things. He does notice that there is something lacking, and he tries to change it. But for me, I think I probably would do it a little bit sooner. That's probably where I'm going to cast judgment on what he does. Because I feel like, creeping into the 70th odd minute, I feel like we should be making changes around about the 55th. Even as drastic if you want to, when we get that equaliser, make a change there and then, get some fresh legs on, and carry on that forward momentum. But look, I'm not gonna start berating the man because he's only just took a job, and he's doing a fantastic job at that currently. Because what I've said before is, for him to have a good season, all he needs to do is to finish above where we finished last season, which was 8th. And as far as I'm aware, it would take some serious capitulation now for him to not achieve that. So we're well on course to have a good season under Ange, and I'm only seeing positive things from it, to be perfectly honest, because this is the first time in a very, very long time that I look forward to watching Spurs play every week. And I've almost fell back in love with them, having fell out of love with them for the past two years or so under those previous managers. So I'm not going to get on his back. I'm still well on board the Ange train.
Absolutely. I think we all should be. Ultimately, if I may say so myself. Travis, I come to you because we had 71% of the ball yesterday, only having 1 more shot than Wolves and 3 less on target. For you, do we need to cross the ball more and sometimes shoot from distance?
Yeah, massively. I mean, I think James Maddison is your number 1 to shoot from distance, whether that's a set piece or in play. The problem is we don't know how to cross the ball in. I mean, let's look at Brennan Johnson, for example. He doesn't take on his man, and 2, he's not very good at crossing in the ball. I think the best person to cross in the ball when he makes it down, he's probably Pedro Porro. For me, I think he's probably the best one for that. But that's when it goes back to Destiny and Doggy being the only 2 people who probably take on their men when they're running down the flanks. James Maddison obviously in the middle. But yeah, we don't have enough shots on goal. I don't think Richie really gets the support he needs. The thing with Richie is he hasn't got a lot of pace. He can only hold the ball up. So yeah, I think we need to have a lot more shots on goal than what we have been having previously, really.
Absolutely. Also, I think just pass the ball quickly for me. That's a massive thing. We made it really easy for Wolves.
I must admit that since having Ange as our manager, the quickness in play has changed dramatically. We still like to play from the back sometimes, obviously deeper. But going forward, it's definitely got a lot more quicker, and that's good to see. And obviously Ange has changed that for us. I think obviously with previous management, it's been a lot more slower. Even with Poch, we did a very, very quick attacking football.
Yeah, fair enough. Theo, for you, would you say we are predictable at this moment in time? And what would be your long-term kind of solution to breaking down low block teams?
I think we've been seeing this for years. All big teams at home have teams turn up and do the low block. And we've been seeing it, for time immemorial. I've been sitting in that West Stand, that one now and the one before, since the 80s. Watching this sort of stuff, and it can be very, very, very difficult. Are we predictable? Yeah, maybe, because he has one system and he sticks to it. But the thing is, once you've got that system, as we've all said, you need the personnel. And when you lose your both fullbacks, which we did on Saturday, that's a huge, huge blow. And as we've all said, and we're all agreeing, you need slightly better quality off the bench. But you also need players to be on form. I think Maddison, it's absolutely key that you need some. We've been crying out. We've all been moaning for years since Ericsson left. Why haven't we got a number 10? Why haven't we got a lock picker? Why haven't we got someone who's creative in the middle of the park who can find? We've got that now. We saw at the beginning of the season that Maddison is that. He's one of the very best at it in the country, which basically makes him one of the best at it in the world. But he's not up to speed yet. So in a game like that on Saturday, where a good team comes well organised, you need something more. You need something, a little bit of magic, something they're not anticipating, something high quality. When Maddison's up to speed, he'll do it. He definitely will do it, but he's not yet. He's come back from a long injury. And when the fullbacks are playing, we've got much more chance of doing it because they disrupt things. They create chaos by coming in and they don't know where they're going to go. They don't know what to do with them. They're both big and strong as well as very, very skillful. As has been said, they're good crossers. And so I think we're predictable in as much as he only plays one way. But that way, we've seen it when it works. It really, really works. And we just had, when Maddison's fully fit and the fullbacks are playing, that's fine. What we can't expect, though, is that all the players are going to be fit all the time. Every club gets injuries. And so, the point that keeps being made about having high quality backup, particularly in some positions where we don't have it at all at the moment, it is going to be critical.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And Justin, why aren't we starting games quick at the moment? Because, we went through a period where we were, and when like against Wolves, we didn't start or end the game quickly. Is that concerning for you, or do you think Palace, will start strong again?
I hope so. I really do. I think that we've got a couple of issues in relation to that. I think obviously, and this comes to, back to what I was saying before about the summer needing to be big, because as we've seen, we've almost rushed players back before they're fully fit. We got Maddison starting games when, he had quite a long layoff. Bentancur starting games when he had a long layoff. Van der Ven starting games after a long layoff. Romero, players like that. It needs to be a case of that. These players need to have time to properly recuperate, get just some, come a few substitute appearances, getting used to it, getting back into the swing of it. Because at the moment, what we have got are players who are still trying to play themselves back to full fitness, having to try and adapt. I mean, in terms of the Palace game, I don't know what will happen with that, because obviously they've got the new manager bounce. So that will be an interesting one to see how they play. I mean, I don't really know much about Oliver Glasner and Frankfurt. I know they were quite an attacking team who I think sort of played a similar sort of style. So it will be interesting to see. But, these next 2 weeks are important, making sure everyone is sort of recuperated back to full fitness and ready to sort of hit the ground running, because I think what needs to be sort of given them a real wake-up call here is the fact that some of them are probably playing for their futures. Some of them are going to have to really step up, because ultimately, if Tottenham are going where they should be going now, and I don't believe there's any excuses in the window, then Tottenham should be, wanting to push for trophies, pushing for the title and things like that. So I do hope now that a reality check is being sort of put into place to these players to say, look, you've got away with it for a few games where you haven't been at your best, but you've been able to find a way. You're not going to be able to do that every single game. You can't keep going 1-0 down, things like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Palace race out the traps and try and get that early goal, because again, we've seen, Tottenham do struggle to break down teams with low blocks. So, maybe there either needs to be the players do something slightly different, as you say, a shot outside the box, or, playing it in from a different position or things like that. There needs to be some different things. But these next 2 weeks are so important for these players to really get back to what they were doing before, but also for them to decide, do they want to be at Tottenham beyond this summer? Because I think if we have another poor game against Palace and we lose that, then I think there's going to be a question mark about some of these players, and do they have a long-term future at the club?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. Thank you very much, Justin. Now, before we move on to Crystal Palace and the questions that you have for the podcast, I want to discuss where you all think we're going to finish at the end of the season. So I'm going to go around the houses. Theo, I'll come to you first. Put your neck on the line. Where are we going to finish at the end of the season?
I think we'll finish. I now think, I was more optimistic than this, but I now think we'll finish 4th or 5th, which is still pretty optimistic. But it seems to me now, it looks very much as if those 3 teams at the top are actually better than us and better than everyone else. So I think we're going to be in a tussle for those Champions League places. Hopefully that 5th will get you in the Champions League. I think it'd be really, really great for us to get in the Champions League. It's not as if we got any cups to play for, but United look resurgent. Villa are pretty good, and we've got to go there in a couple of weeks. And I hate to say it, but Chelsea could be resurgent as well. They could get on a run. So it's going to be tough. We're going to be in a little mini league with those teams to try and claim one of those Champions League places. But I think we can. I think we can do that. I think we can. I'm not too downhearted. I think we're very good. And as I say, I think when Maddison gets sharper, that could make a big significant difference for us. So I'm going to say 4th or 5th.
Okay, that's definitely fairly positive. Thank you, Theo. Wynnie, are you as positive?
Sadly not, no. I just think we're on a trajectory that's different to Aston Villa and Man United currently. I feel that Man United are in some kind of form now where, obviously we looked at if we're talking about the Man United of a couple of months ago, I probably wouldn't have said the same, but they just look to be a different side at the minute, grinding results out, getting some good results here and there. And Villa, I feel like they've had their bad patch, and they're starting to hit a little bit of form again. Whereas we're in some sort of downward trajectory. I know that's our first loss in a while, but the performances have been a bit crap as well. So I'm gonna. I was torn between 5th and 6th, but I feel that United and Villa will nick the 4th and 5th spot respectively. I don't know which position they'll finish, but I think we'll finish 6th.
Okay,
Which
fair
I will
enough.
add, it's still a fantastic season for Ange in his first season.
I would say so, absolutely. Justin, where are we finishing?
To be honest, I'm going to agree with Wynnie. I think we'll finish 6th. I think when you look at I was contemplating possibly 7th, but I think the fact of it being is Brighton have got, they're 9 points behind us. They've got European football as well. So I think their squad's a lot thinner than the ones above us, or ones around us more in terms of Villa and United. I think, as we're seeing now, Højlund is now, seems to be hitting the ground running. And you sort of, when you're seeing that, and again, as I said, does Richarlison getting ahead of Højlund? No, he doesn't. Does he getting ahead of Watkins? No, he doesn't. So, to me, as I say, I think the next couple of weeks are so important in terms of where we finish, because, as I said, if we can kick back into our best form, I think we are still in the mix. But I just feel that there are some better players in particularly Villa and United. I just think that means it's going to be a bit of a stretch. But I agree with both yourself and Wynnie that 6th still is a good season, and hopefully will mean that we'll be able to kick on in the summer and get players so that we can push on to get into the top 4. And also, just very quickly, I don't have a problem with that, because to me, if we do get 6th, it's a better chance of us winning a trophy. I know the club seem to be this, Daniel Levy has this obsession with the Champions League, but we're not in a position to win it. It's all well and good, and the Champions League music and the nights are great, but to me, it would mean more to actually lift a trophy, even if it is the Europa League or even the Europa Conference League. If we could go out there and go and win one of those trophies, I think would just mean the world to the fans.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it would. So I could definitely get where you're coming from there, Justin. And Travis, last but not least, when we do move on to Palace and a quick FPL League update, where are we going to finish at the end of the season now? Because we sit in 5th place.
It absolutely kills me to be saying this, honestly, after the way we started at the start of the season throughout. But I'm going to go with what Justin and what Wynnie has said. I think we're going to finish 6th. I think Man United are right up there now. It's so frustrating because I feel we're exactly in the same place we was last season, the season before, and it's just getting tedious now because, like I said earlier, the quality is just not there. We're a nearly side. We really are, and I think we need to get hold of Ange Postecoglou. That's the biggest thing. I couldn't give a damn about any of the players. We need to keep hold of Ange Postecoglou because he is the manager who's going to change that club. So I think if Levy is serious and wants to keep Ange after what he's done so far with the club, then we need to really start considering who we're going to buy in the summer transfer window, like what Justin said earlier, and just go absolutely massive with it, like we've never done before.
Okay, fair enough. More than reasonable. So we will move on. Before we get to Palace, quick FPL update, and obviously our league here at the podcast. We've got 106 of you. Yeah, that's right, 106 of you in the league. So big up. It pains me to say it, but I'm really struggling at the moment. I'm 88, which is really, really far down. Made a lot of changes using the points. When I bought in players like Jota, Pinnock, Adebayo for Luton, they've gone and got injured as well. So I wish I hadn't have done that. But that's the way it sometimes works with FPL. But we move on. We're going to give a quick shout out to the top 20 in the league. First place, you've got Tom Carr. Second, you got it all with Kai Gott. Third, Mickey Race. Fifth, Ted McCoy. Fifth, Kayet Daniel. Sixth, Tommy C. Seventh, Mark Sweeney. Eighth, Luca Funya. Big up Luca, and I'll be listening. Ninth, Sean. 10th, George. 11th, Robin Mumford. 12th, Rob Perry. 13th, Luke Charlton. 14th, Kyra Julis. 15, Thomas Holston. I know will be in the chat. Big up, Thomas. 16th, Keith Burton. 17th, Lewis Godfrey. 18th, Will Savage. 19th, Ryan McLeay. And 20th, Andrew Davis. There are the top 20. And I'm very sorry to say, Barney, you are bottom of it, but you did join late. So we will let you off for now. But we move on to Palace. And Justin, I'm going to come to you first. Firstly, how are you feeling ahead of Palace? And what would your kind of team look like?
So I think looking at it, as I said, it's a little bit of the unknown because obviously, Hodgson has gone, Glasner's in, and I know snippets of what I've seen of him at Eintracht Frankfurt. So, let's make no mistake, he won the Europa League there. He's competed at the top level with them in the Bundesliga. So I think it will be very interesting. It'll be a different Palace to what we were probably expecting. I think we would probably have been expecting a bit more of a low block. Whereas from what I can sort of gather of Glasner, he's more of a attacking sort of, in terms of forward-thinking football manager. So I think it'll be very interesting to see if he takes a similar approach to maybe what Thomas Frank or De Zerbi did for us. Obviously we're just going to have to be better, be smarter in terms of how we sort of deal with that, but make sure that we take the opportunities, because I do think there will be opportunities to sort of, get at them and potentially get some goals in there. In terms of sort of starting wise, I think it's very similar to the team he put out, apart from a few little tweaks. I think I'd bench Richarlison, I'd have Sonny up top, and I'd have Werner, off the left, because I think if we can get him in the game, he does seem to offer more. I'd stick with Kulusevski because I'm still not 100% convinced about Brennan Johnson on that side. I think he just needs time, with regards to that. The middle three, I'd stick with that as it is, but as I say, we just need to see how that develops, because I think, I agree. I can't remember which one of you said it about Sarr not being happy to come off. I think it was Theo said about Sarr not being happy to come off, and I think that was right, because he shouldn't have been happy. I think we should have brought others off before him. But I would say for the moment, go with that three in the central area, and then the centre-backs, as they are. But the one thing I would say about the centre-backs is that at some point, Dragusin needs to play. We need to get this idea that he's not just somebody on the bench and we're just going to keep throwing these two in for 90 minutes. It doesn't work with this style. We need to get acceptant of the fact that if we're going to continue playing the high line, and we keep putting these two out there, as we saw with Van de Ven against Chelsea, he'll get an injury. Romero will get an injury. So to me, at some point, whether it be the Palace game, I would be quite happy with the Palace game, maybe putting Romero to the bench and Dragusin coming in. But I do think then if they're fit, which hopefully they will, that Porro and Udogie come back in, because we need them. Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Justin. Talking Beer says, what do we know about the Palace manager? So Theo, coming to you next. Do you know anything about Oliver Glasner?
Not a great deal, other than that he was very, very highly rated. He was certainly one of the names that was talked about when we had a vacancy, at the end of last season, because he'd achieved very highly. Eintracht Frankfurt hadn't done very much for years, and they won that European trophy. We all enjoyed them knocking West Ham out of that cup on their way to victory. And I think he plays quite attacking football. I think he plays three at the back, actually, with wing backs. A lot of pacey football. So I don't think I think it will be a change of style. So we'll need to, or Palace will need time to adjust to that. I mean, that's the interesting thing. He's going to come in and presumably he's going to want to impose his style straight away. And that's a gamble for them, but they've decided to gamble because it might be that they find it difficult to adjust quickly and they haven't got much time to accumulate points. It could be. I mean, people talk about new manager bounce. Sometimes it happens. I remember us going to Palace a few years ago when Alan Pardew took over there and they'd been going really badly and we were going really well under Poch, and they turned us over at Selhurst Park in circumstances not dissimilar to this. But I think this guy's going to come in and he's going to be so different that sometimes it takes a few games for managers to start to turn it around. And I think actually this could work in our favour because they might find that they're adjusting. The other thing that will be the big thing will be whether they've got three absolutely exceptional players in Eze and Elise and Gay, the defender, and they've all been injured. I think Gay's back. I think Eze could well be back, and I think even Elise might be back. And Eze and Elise in that Palace team makes a world of difference. Without those three players, well, the Gay is definitely back. But mind you, they've got to play twice, but they're playing tonight, aren't they? They're playing as we speak.
Yeah, they are. Gay isn't in the squad. I've just looked at him.
Oh,
He's
okay.
in the squad.
Okay, but he's expected to be back very soon. And the other two aren't in the squad, are they? Eze and Alicia,
No.
I don't think. So if they kept those three players are players that all the big clubs are interested in. So if they're in the squad, that makes a big difference. If they're not, they're pretty ordinary. So these are the imponderables at the moment. We'll see.
And staying with you, Theo, how do you feel about Palace? Obviously, in 2 weeks' time, in terms of what was your lineup look like?
Well, as I say, I think the play. Well, hopefully we get both fullbacks back so that we have the first choice defence, and that of course helps us in an attacking sense enormously. It makes a huge difference. I would, if I was Ange, I'd be looking at the midfield because he's really spoilt for choice in that central midfield section, and I'd be looking at Bentancur in training and wondering whether to stick him in instead of Bissouma. He might start to rotate them. So he might bring Bentancur. I might be tempted to bring Bentancur back. It'd be depending on what I'm seeing in training, but I'd certainly have Sarr in. I'd obviously stick Maddison, and I think Maddison's going to improve slowly as these games go by, and this might be the game where he really starts to make an impact. And then, as I say, the most disappointing thing really for us, apart from the fact we had their second choice fullbacks, was the front three. So how would you freshen that up? Your choices are to bring in Werner and or Johnson, and then you would drop the most obvious person to drop to the bench would be Kulusevski, who's very good to come off the bench. You could be radical and drop Richarlison off. But Richarlison, apart from the last two games, has been scoring prolifically, and he is the centre forward. So I would possibly put Kulusevski on the bench and maybe pick Johnson or Werner, probably Johnson, in his stead. So those are the decisions. Bring the fullbacks back, maybe bring Bentancur back, maybe rest Kulusevski.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Theo. Wynnie, I'll come to you. What does your lineup look like for Palace at this moment in time?
Someone made a very good point earlier, and aside from the fullbacks, hopefully the fullbacks are fit. I don't think the injuries were deemed to be serious. I think Udogie may be the most obvious one to come back in. I think Porro may be a little bit more serious, but I don't think it's anything too serious. So hopefully we have both of them back in. I would keep the midfield as it is, to be perfectly honest. I feel like with the midfield balance, it's quite good. I didn't realise we missed Bissouma as much. I know he wasn't, overly extravagant, but I feel like he did his job very well. And it's definitely something that we have missed, that person that can sit there and, just pivot with the ball and keep hold of it and win free kicks when we're under pressure. But yeah, someone made a great point, and, apologies, I can't remember who it was. But yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, Werner, I'd put Sonny straight into the middle. I'd get Richarlison off and I'd put Werner out on the left, because I feel like he's been, underutilised, because I feel like the games that he's played, Werner, he may not have been scoring, but he's definitely been setting goals up. And he's looked really, really frighteningly quick. He's looked sharp. He's always looked like when he's had the ball that something may happen. So yeah, Richarlison for me, after his performance, he's had a couple of good ones, 3 or 4 games ago, but as the games have progressed, his performances have been decreasing and he's been, kind of dwindling away. So yeah, I'd dump Richarlison, get Sonny back in the middle, back where he kind of belongs, because he is one of the best finishers in the Premier League. He's certainly the best finisher in our side. So let's get him in the middle of the sticks and let's get Werner and Kulu either side of him.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that's what I would do. So thank you very much, Wynnie. And last but not least, Travis. At this moment in time, again, what does your lineup look like for Palace? And are you feeling confident that we can get back to winning ways?
I was actually reading a bit about this new manager that's come to Palace till my fiance told me.
Go for it.
So I didn't really get a chance to really hear much. So But yeah, his track record looks good, obviously, from Eintracht Frankfurt. Eintracht Frankfurt, obviously, a good side anyway. So yeah, I honestly wish Palace all the best, and all the best to Roy Hodgson as well. I think Roy Hodgson is one of the nicest managers that's ever graced the Premier League. Personally, I think he's a top bloke. I really do. But I think when he's hit the nail on the head there with changing formation, the only other bit I would change as well is I'd put I'd give Bentancur a run. Bentancur, Sarr, and Madison. I'd like to see Werner up top. See what Werner's like as a striker. Because I know he played as a striker for, correct me if I'm wrong, for Leipzig. Who was more of a centre forward role there. So yeah, and I think I said in the previous podcast, playing two up top. I mean, I know it's changing Ange's formation. Obviously, that's up to Ange ultimately. But I would like to see two up top one day to see how it works. But yeah, I would drop Richarlison. I think he's kind of died off a little bit. Yeah, and obviously stick Sonny in the middle, Werner and Kulusevski. But yeah, I think when he's right with what he said there, with changing formation with the game against Palace.
Okay, and before we move on to questions that people put forward for the podcast and we wrap up for today's show, I want to know your score predictions. Not necessarily why, just your score predictions. So I'm going to go in no particular order. So Wynnie, I'll come to you first, put you on the spot. Score prediction for Palace in less than 2 weeks' time. It's very hard to think.
No, I've got it in my head. I think it's going to click. It's going to click. Madders is going to have, the kind of game that we expected him to have upon returning. And I feel like dropping Richarlison out and putting Sonny in the middle. I think Sonny likes a goal against Palace as well. So I'm going to go for 3-1 Spurs.
Okay, nice. That'll be my score prediction as well when it comes round to it on Partner Podcast. So let's hope we both score 3 points, Wynnie, but we'll have to see. A lot could change from now and then, especially when we're talking about Tottenham Hotspur. But Justin, come to you next. What is your score prediction? Are you as confident as Wynnie?
I think it's going to depend on the team he puts out, as always. But it seems a bit of a cliche. But I don't know. I mean, I always worry about not having that game, because you always do sit there and go, have they? You almost think, would it be nice to have a game to go back out there and try and fix it? Can they do as much in terms of on the training pitch? I think it might be a bit of a scrappy one. Obviously Palace are fighting for their lives. They want to try and stay in the league. I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs.
Okay, so a tight game. Yeah, it makes sense. Palace need every point possible. Theo, I'll come to you next. What is your score prediction in less than 2 weeks' time for Palace?
3-0 Tottenham.
Oof, love it. Finally going to get the clean sheet then.
Yeah.
Love it. Absolutely. Love the confidence. We need to get it at some point. Travis, are you as confident as the other guys, and will we get a clean sheet?
Well, I'm hoping Ange gives them the old Alex Ferguson, the old hairdryer treatment before the game even starts. To be honest with you, and I'm going 3-1 Tottenham.
Oh, I thought we were going to say keep a clean sheet as well. 3-1 common score there.
If Porro and Udogie ain't back, we will not keep a clean sheet. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, there is good news that they are back for the Palace match. But if it's Emerson Royale and Davis again, then we're definitely not going to keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, fair enough. Get your score predictions in the comments below if you are listening live on YouTube. If you are listening on podcast platforms such as Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, drop me a message or put out a tweet with your score prediction. Barney goes 2-0 Spurs. Fair enough. For me, it depends on whether Elise and Eze are playing. If they're both playing, then I don't think we keep a clean sheet. I honestly don't. But if neither of them are there, I can't see where a goal for Palace is going to come from, even with a new manager and a new way of playing. Please don't prove me wrong on this case. But before we get to the questions that people put forward for the podcast, the question I ask on every single show sometimes gets harder, sometimes I feel kind, and that is how many points we get from our next few games. This time it's from our next 3 Premier League fixtures where 9 points are available. Our next 3 Premier League games are Crystal Palace at home, Aston Villa away, and Fulham away. So I'm going to come around the houses. That is Crystal Palace at home, Aston Villa away, and Fulham away at the Cottage. This is going to be interesting because I'm not going to go in any particular order either. Travis, and come to you first. How many points are we getting for a possible 9?
6 points. And Barney will Barney will absolutely crucify me for this, but I love you to bits, Barney. I'm going 3 points for Fulham and 3 points from Palace.
Okay. So we're losing Villa.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, that sounds so bad and I'm so defeatist, but Villa are such a good side.
No, I think it's more than reasonable. They've got a good record at Villa Park, not necessarily recently, but over the course of the whole season and Unai Emery's tenure. Talking big, 7 points. I absolutely take 7 points at this moment in time. I'm not going to lie. Theo, how many points are we going to get from those 9?
7.
7?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we can get a point at Villa and win the other 2.
I love the confidence. Justin, are you as confident as Theo?
4. I think we get a draw. I think we get a draw at Fulham. I think we beat Palace, and I think we lose to Villa.
Ouch. Oh dear, that is quite low. Thank you very much, Justin. And Wynnie, where are you kind of standing with how many points we're going to get?
I'm going 5. I'm going to say we're going to remain unbeaten in the next 3. We'll beat Palace and we'll get a draw at Villa Park and Craven Cottage.
Yeah, that's what I went with earlier when I planned the show. I went with 5, exactly the same, where we beat Palace, hopefully comfortably. But as long as we beat them, then we have Villa. I think we're just about to get a draw, and I think Fulham will be exactly the same. We beat them earlier on in the season. They need the points. They don't want to be dragged into a little relegation scrap. They shouldn't be, but there's always that risk if you don't pick up points. Now, on to the questions that people put forward for the podcast this morning. So we'll go around the houses. Wynnie, I'm going to come to you first. Question from Bateman Talks Tottenham, so big up to him. He says, what are your thoughts on how to improve the atmosphere? Has improved massively on previous years, but it's sometimes still quiet, like on Saturday. So, Wynnie, brainstorm your ideas.
No, do you know what? I don't think there is anything more that they can do because, obviously they've brought the trumpet in, etc., and they've tried other things. I mean, the atmosphere is the atmosphere. The atmosphere is reflected on the performances on the pitch. So I think if the performances on the pitch improve, that then improves the atmosphere. So I don't think there's anything more they can do as a club. Like the trumpet is a fantastic idea before the game. But yeah, it's solely down to the performances on the pitch, and the atmosphere as of late may be crap because the performances on the pitch have been crap, and there's nothing for the fans to really scream and shout about. And you'll notice that when we were playing well, the atmosphere was incredible. And it's not just a coincidence. So yeah, I think the atmosphere is probably dwindled off, but I don't think there's anything more the club can do other than potentially back the team in the future.
No, I completely agree. However, I think that it was flat on Saturday, someone who's there, but we've got to get behind the team when they aren't doing well, for me, even more than when they are doing well, to lift them and give that support. So some of it is on fans. Obviously, you had a lot of tourist fans blamed, etc. For me, it's not that at all, and I don't have a problem with tourist fans. They're more than welcome here. But for me, it's just that nobody was up for it on Saturday. As I spoke to a few people, it went up for it. I don't think we expected that. But Justin, I'm going to give the next question to you from Barney. Barney says, what will be your ideal summer transfer window in and out of the club? This is your time, Justin.
Okay.
I've got Daniel Levy on the line. Go for it.
Really? Yeah, because he'd be the first
Absolutely.
one to go. I can tell you that now. So I think clear, looking at, and I think if Tottenham can be, I've said this so many times, Tottenham can be so clever and creative in what they do, but every time they seem to just mess it up, and there's opportunities miss out on. They go, oh, why didn't we do that? So I think ultimately we need to, particularly, Joe Rodon, I think needs to go. I think perhaps Troy Parrott perhaps needs to go. I think there's money in that elsewhere. Jed Spence, Tanganga and Dombele, Reguilon, those players in particular, I think we need to just get them out again. I think Ndombele is probably just going to be alone, but the rest, I think we could probably get some money back in, to the club. And then, as I said, I think they need to be clever, but they do need to go big and make a statement out there. Sonny isn't getting any younger. I don't think Richarlison's going to be the answer long term. So to me, I would say a striker, definitely. I think the ideal sort of striker type for me would either be someone like Ivan Toney or Dusan Vlahovic from Juventus. I think either one of those are realistic in terms of that, you know, the clubs that we're going to be going up against and the financial clout that we have, because there's no excuses now. We've got this financial clout over those. I think Pedro Neto now is a must. I think as auditions go, that wasn't a bad one, to be fair, in terms of that. So I do feel that he needs to be brought in. I do think as well, if Tottenham were very clever, and this is what I was referring to, I'd bring back Luka Modric just for a year, because
Would you?
I would. 38 years old. He's going to be out of contract. He's not getting a new contract at Madrid. I think he'll still have something to prove. And I think just giving him, you know, the opportunity, you know, if Maddison needs a break, you could put Modric in there. He could do that sort of job. So I don't think it's going to cost you an absolute art, you know, that we could spend big there, but I just feel that other areas are probably a bit more of a priority. And if you're going to go for Vlahovic and you go for Neto, you're talking close to 120 million quid, really, for that sort of, for those two players, I think. So I think if you could get Modric in, I think that would be a clever bit of business. Possibly Gallagher for replacing Højbjerg, but that's just one that we'll have to see how that develops. I'm not overly bothered in terms of that, but I think the other sort of areas are the fullbacks. You know, we need to go and get, it doesn't have to be big star names, but it has to be players that can come in and do the same job, because what they're going to ask for, what Ange sets out in place, they have to be the same. So it's the fullbacks, Modric, Neto, and either Tony or Vlahovic. I'm not being greedy at all.
Not at all, don't worry. But no, absolutely love it. Thank you very much, Justin. That is Justin's ideal window. Theo, I'll come to you next. Billy says, what is the worst miss in terms of players that Spurs are missing in transfer work? And just generally, Billy's asking, what players should we assign if and when we have the chance?
Well, the one that always sticks in my mind is Luis Suarez. It's going back a bit, but Daniel Levy, he was available from Ajax. You know, he was quite young, and he was already a real talent. You know, he was scored loads of goals at Ajax. He was a major star, really. And Daniel Levy was offered him by Ajax, and he went to Harry Redknapp and said, "Do you want this? Is it, you know, should we get him?" And Redknapp said, "No, we don't need him. We've got Robbie Keane. We just don't need him. He's not that good. He's not as good as Keane." And of course, he went to Liverpool and became an absolute sensation, and then ended up Barcelona. Well, as we all know, the rest is history. So, you know, you do miss. I mean, there've been loads of examples of that. That's the one that springs to mind, but there've been other examples like that over the years.
Yeah, it certainly has been. So thank you very much for your answer and question. Billy has got a second question here. There's quite a few parts to it, so I'll share this around. Billy generally wants to know if we could go back in time, the players that we'd rather. So, Travis, I'll give Billy's first question to you. David Raya or Vicario, if you had the choice. Quite obvious one, I think.
I was hoping I was allowed to choose my own player then. Okay. Well,
Sorry.
Obviously, I'm going to go with Vicario. I'm not going to go over Gunnar, am I? Jeez. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, David Raya can you know, he could have come to Tottenham. He's made his bed, so he can rot in it now. So yeah, Vicario.
Yeah, I think that's quite a simple one in context of what we're seeing now, to be honest with you. Wynnie, Jules Koundé or Romero? This is interesting.
Romero all day. I know Romero has his critics, but I think as a defender he is phenomenal. But not just defending, his ability to press and his ability to beat the press, should I say, with his balls into the midfield. Like, they're so pinpoint for a defender. His passing accuracy is incredible over that short distance. He may not be able to be Alderweireld and ping it 60, 70 yards to a winger, but his ability to find the space in between two players to pick out a Maddison, a Basuma, is second to none. And you know what? I like the fact that he's aggressive. I think defenders should be, obviously, you know, I don't want him to get sent off every week. But I think that we have seen a significant improvement in him from the Romero of old. And maybe that's because it's Ange. Maybe that's because he's got this new vice captaincy role. I don't know. But yeah, Romero all day long.
Okay, thank you very much. And the last one I'll give to you, Theo. Billy says Maddison or Hakim Ziyech.
Oh, Maddison's absolutely excellent. And when he's, all that's lacking at the moment is match sharpness. But when he's on his game, he's as good as anyone in Europe. And that, I'd have him in the England team. If he's fit, I'd have him in that England team because I mean there are no England team's got all sorts of great attacking talent, but they haven't got a number 10 like Maddison. Maddison's an actual proper number 10 who can see things and make things happen unexpectedly. Plus, he can, he's a sweet striker at a ball, dead ball, or in open play from distance. Yeah, Maddison, I wouldn't swap him for anyone really.
Yeah, absolutely. And that England midfield can be quite strong with the likes of Maddison and Bellingham really in it. If Southgate plays it right, but he hasn't yet. Let's face it. But that kind of wraps us up nicely for today's show. Thank you very much to everyone who listened to watch, for your fabulous questions and your contribution throughout today's show. As always, massively appreciate as well. Thank you everyone for coming on to the 4 fabulous guests. We'll go around the houses and ask where people can find you on social media. Firstly, Theo, your debut on the show. Really appreciate you giving me your time. Obviously, you are booked in as well for a couple more dates for the end of the season. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm on the Spurs show regularly. I have my Life Goals podcast where I have well-known football fans relive the 8 goals of their lives. So I've got all sorts of amazing guests over the last few years on that. So there's loads in the back catalogue. And on social media, I'm just at Theo Delaney on all social media. Yeah,
go check Theo out. Thank you very much for coming on. Wynnie, where can people find you and talk to us about Park Lane Podcast, which I'm, by the way, one of 4 co-hosts at, along with Wynnie?
Absolutely, yeah. You can find me on Park Lane Pod every Sunday at 7 p.m. With the likes of Harry and the other guys on there. And I am Wynnie 1991 on Twitter. Park Lane Pod. So we obviously do a live stream as well of a FIFA, if that is your thing. If it's not, don't worry. But if not, keep it on in the background and just boost our views anyway. But I would like to stress, obviously, everyone in here. Please go and follow them because everyone's got some great opinions and some great views. And if you are not, subscribed to this channel, absolutely do that as well. Because obviously Harry does some great work, and he definitely deserves the recognition without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much, Wynnie. Justin, becoming a regular on the show, slowly but surely. I love it. I just don't get you on with Haz because you two could talk for England. But where can people find you?
Yeah, so as you said here, I kind of just sort of float around really. It's either here or Spurs Kings TV giving Marlon grief, or I say put my views on on Twitter. So obviously give us a follow there. And as I said, thank you so much for having us on. It's been a pleasure as always.
No, it's great to have you on. Thank you, Justin. And Marlon definitely deserves that. Some of the things he comes out with. Do you remember Vicario can't improve on his catching? No, he's never living that down. Got to remind him of that towards the end of the season. That's absolutely bonkers, that. Travis, regular on the show as well. Where can people find you? And thank you for giving me your time this evening.
Yeah, absolute pleasure to be back on the show again, Harry. Absolutely love being a regular on here. Always full of wonderful people that take part in the show. Wynnie, I've had a couple of shows with you, and I think Justin, I think you've been on a few as well. Theo, an absolute pleasure to meet you as well, sir. You can find me at Twitter at officialcaster, talking all things Tottenham, and I am starting to do a lot more on mental health. Also, if you don't follow Harry, or this is for people listening, if you don't follow Harry or Barney Ambrose on Twitter, please follow them. What they do for neurodiversity and autism is just simply incredible. So, yeah, both of you. So every time, keep up your amazing work.
Oh, I really appreciate it, Travis. Have you ever considered a mental health podcast, Travis, setting it up?
I have, yeah. It is something I'm looking to do in the near future. I'm doing a lot within work at the moment. I'm doing a course on mental health first aider for the company that I work for. So, yeah, it will be something I'm looking to set up in the near future. I am on LinkedIn as well, where everything is basically mental health. So, yeah.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Big up to everyone in the chat. Thank you very much. If you want to follow me, you can there, HarryScarf22. But most importantly, check out all these guys on social media. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, get to 2K, smash the like button, helps more people see it, and it is free to do so if you are listening, because a lot of you people do. On any other podcast platform, don't forget to give us a follow and a 5-star review. I'm knackered. 3rd stream today. But as we always say on this channel, up the Spurs. Come on.
working as a manager at Celtic Park. When we met you, we picked you out, you shook us up and turned us around.